NVIDIA and the rest of the semiconductor sector is under a little bit of pressure right now with some negative news that's been knocking not only NVIDIA down this morning from overheating of their Blackwell chips, but also AMD as of late. And then you have SMCI that's in the mix that had this delisting and now they magically have a new auditor. You have some MU and ARM and just other semiconductors, Qualcomm, that are just kind of a little weak right now. So we're going to talk about that today. Obviously, we have NVIDIA earnings coming up at the time of this recording, Wednesday after hours. So Thursday morning and Wednesday after hours, we will see how NVIDIA reacts to their earnings. Now, every single earnings season for NVIDIA over the past couple of years has just been pushed up and pushed up and pushed up and pushed up. It's like dangling a dollar there for NVIDIA and it just keeps grabbing it. But at what point is NVIDIA going to say, hey, we beat earnings, but we just can't live up to these high standards that you keep giving us? Like, I know we're doing well, but geez, like, so be mindful as each and every earnings NVIDIA has, it has blown it out of the water. But don't forget, go check out my trading earnings video if you have not watched that it matters about the guidance, right? The forward outlook, how the response is. If they want to bring NVIDIA down, they don't care if they beat earnings or not. If they want to take it to the next level, they will take it to the next level, okay? So look at more so the guidance and the reaction on the charts from NVIDIA this week, all right? So let's jump into it today. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new, welcome. My name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Former pharmacist, undergrad in chemistry, matriculated my way for the last 8 years in full-time entrepreneurship, primarily in the coaching and consulting space. And I decided, hey, why don't I share these skills that can translate to a lot of people's potential opportunities, I like to call them, problems that they want to solve in their lives. And this just so happens to be a financial solution for a lot of folks, all right? This could ease you as well mentally, physically, with your worries as well around the economy. So as you listen to these videos and you understand these videos holistically on my channel, you go back and listen, please take a holistic outlook on these because a lot of folks are stressed under, their candidate didn't get in, or they're just a little bit concerned about things that are coming forth, uncertainty, fear, doubts, FUD, all those things are coming in. So I want this channel to be a breath of fresh air for your education, your mental, and hopefully your pockets as well. All right. So with that being said, a lot of you aren't subscribed. So please, if you could hit that subscribe button before we jump into it, I'll give you 2 seconds. All right. All right. Hit that like button as well if I can earn that from you during this session. All right. Let's jump into it. All right. Leverage Adversity, that's my Discord. So you're more than welcome to jump in there. We've been running that for a while now. We've got our holistic trainings. We've got live trainings, workshops. I do a town hall from a mental and spiritual standpoint. We've got book clubs. We've got our trading floor with options trading, futures trading, and I would love to have you in there. Also, I do one-on-one mentorship from the life coaching perspective and the skill sets of trading in the financial markets. All right. So we'd love to have you inside and be a part of the family. Click the link down below. You can join the community and then our university for a little bit around a coffee a day. All right. Let's be real here. All right. So love you all. Let's jump into it. All right. So we got Super Micro hires new auditor to maintain its NASDAQ listing. If you did not know, SMCI or Super Microchip was just the talk of the town over the last year. Immense amount of gains you'll see in just a second on the charts. And they just blew it out of the water. I mean, you're talking going from $180, roughly around $180 to $200 to $1,200 in less than about 6 months. Okay. So massive gains, and it gave it all back for the year and is trying to somewhat finish the year on a positive note. So they're trying to just stay alive right now. Does this mean for you to invest into it? In my opinion, it's still a speculative play. You can think otherwise. Let me know in the comments, but this is allowing them to stay alive. Okay. They fired their their auditor before, left, and now they've got a new auditor that's trying to get them and maintain that NASDAQ listing and get them back in good graces, especially with their partnerships and collaborations with some of the semiconductors that you know of, NVIDIA, okay? And they're just trying to stay afloat, all right? Other news really quick. I know this is not a video about that, but Spirit Airlines files for bankruptcy, yet they are still mounting losses and will continue to fly, all right? There's that. So talk of the town today is going to be where you saw thumbnail from is going to be NVIDIA this morning had concerns over their overheating issues, raising concerns a little bit, especially, isn't it funny, leading up to their earnings that they have raising concerns, and that news article dropped just a couple of days before their earnings. So this is going to be something that may take consideration for investors, maybe trimming some profits in a little bit of uncertainty about how their earnings are going to play out. And we saw that on the charts today. However, NVIDIA is still holding up some support levels, so we still want to pay attention to those support levels and whether it is broken trend, which I'll show in a second. All right, so let's jump into the charts right away. One other thing I'll mention really quick is how will Trump's administration, and if you're not familiar, Trump is looking to instill more American-made products, okay? And we know that the U.S. imports a lot of products from various other countries, primarily China and the Middle East. So you look at those collaborations across the borders, and if he instills some type of tariffs, that will affect the tech sector and semiconductors as well, because a lot of these semiconductors companies and tech sector are doing international work, right? So you're talking about taxing those companies in the U.S. for their international transport of goods. So that's going to be a big thing going into 2025 of how these semiconductors and our tech sector is going to react. And a little uncertainty as we see now that the tech sector is starting to pull back. We're starting to see Meta pull back, Microsoft, right? Those companies are starting to kind of, it's not a tank, it's not a crash. It's just starting to pull back a little bit. People may be starting to take some profits off the table just for a couple of these reasons. All right. So just keep that in mind of how these tariffs will affect that international trade and those U.S. products and that tax that may be imposed on these companies. All right. Let's jump into the charts here. Let me shrink myself, jump into the charts where the money is made. Okay. So let's go into the video first in the semiconductor sector. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with semiconductors or the chips that run a lot of AI and a lot of your computers, obviously, and software, right? These chips that are running the technology that we use each and every day are important, right? They are pivotal to these machines operating efficiently and with ease. Okay, so this is why this sector has been booming over the last couple of years, is because AI and tech has become a lot more important for these chips to become more efficient. And these chip companies are looking to get partnerships and business just like anyone else. So the first place I want to start for anyone that's just looking at the semiconductor sector are a couple of things. SMH. Okay, SMH here is the semiconductor ETF. Okay, if I go on a monthly chart, these ETFs, a lot of people are, exchange traded fund. Okay, a lot of these people that are looking to like buy into maybe just a whole sector, right? You can buy into the whole sector, and maybe you don't pick just NVIDIA or just Qualcomm or just AMD. Maybe you're just like, man, I just want a natural progression of the semiconductor sector. So this was a ETF that was running with NVIDIA. Now, it may not obviously have had the NVIDIA gains, right? If you bought it at beginning of 2024 at $137, and it went to $183, which would have been, let's see, 100% on your money versus the 500+%. I'm just doing roundabout math in my head with NVIDIA. Then, it was steady, right? So this is a good way to measure what the semiconductor sector may be doing. So you can see that SMH is starting to pull back. These top wicks are telling us that sellers are starting to be present, whether they're playing puts or shorting the semiconductor sector, or they're starting to trim some profits off the table. So we're consolidating here in this channel from about 238 to roughly about 260, 255. Okay, so the top of this channel. All right, so it's just in this consolidation here, trying to wait for NVIDIA. Does it break down or does it break back up? Okay, so that is one way to just get an overall view of the semiconductor sector. And there are many other ways. I'm going to show you another one, SOXL. Okay, SOXL is a 3x leveraged way of investing into the semiconductor sector. So it's going to move 3 times, right, in the direction that you want. So look here that you can buy shares of this if you are very bullish on the semiconductor sector. So it's on a dip right now. You see here it went up to $70 at the lows back in 2023. It was at $14. So So this is a good way as well if you don't have a lot of capital or cash. If you're able to get these 3x leverage, now you got to know what you're doing, in my opinion, in holding. But this would be more so share buying, in my opinion. You can also trade this with options, but do you see here that this is pulling back to a nice support level around $25 to $26 right here, 26, 26, 26, and we're at a pivotal point here where we've got lower highs, but do we bounce and go back up to 50 plus again? Okay. So this is what I'm talking about from a very pivotal point in a lot of these semiconductor sector companies, is because if those tariffs are in place, or if these companies have poor earnings or whatever it may be, and it starts to break trend, right? SOXL starts to break trend and come down to 20, right? Something like $18 to $20. That is very much possible. Okay. Now it will take an NVIDIA to pull back. It will take, AMD to pull back even more, Qualcomm to pull back even more, things of that nature. But if we look at all these charts, now let me jump into the actual charts of those semiconductors. Okay, let's jump into NVIDIA first. Okay, first of all, we see that NVIDIA is starting to get some selling stepping in. There's not much buying here. Look, how I can tell this for my newbies or beginners is that we have no bottom wicks on this monthly candle. Okay. It's all kind of selling pressure coming in just a little bit, or taking profit. Okay. But we have still not closed below or broken back below this 133, which is the previous month candle close. Okay. So if I mark it right there, 133, we're still holding above that previous month candle close. So that's very important. All right. So it's still forming higher lows, still bullish. It's obviously NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is not exempt from anything. So here are some price targets following earnings for NVIDIA for those that want to jump ahead. Okay, NVIDIA has an estimated price target of around $8 to a $10 move post earnings. So if it has really good earnings and a good response, it's going to move wherever it's sitting leading up into Wednesday around $10 or so. So I could see NVIDIA jumping up to 150 if it has really good earnings, and then blasting past 150 into 155 and ultimately 160 in the short term. Okay. If it breaks above there, I do believe that buyers are going to step back in pretty strong, buy the dip, and then ride it up into the 165, 170, all the psychological levels. All right. Now, for whatever reason, if the guidance is off, I'm not projecting that NVIDIA is going to miss on earnings, but if the guidance or something is off in some form or fashion, which personally I would love. Okay. If you are a true investor, you want, things to pull back. Okay. You want things to pull back. Now, one thing I saw today is that we have kind of broken down underneath this trend just slightly. If I turn on the moving averages here as well, and I go on to a daily, we have broken underneath the daily 20. Okay. That is a very key thing, is we want to remain up above, kind of riding a wave up above some of these moving averages, specifically the daily 20. You can see we were holding and we wanted to kind of pop and hold and be strong, but we broke down due to that news. So with earnings, do we reclaim or do we break back down into this 133, which would be the 50 moving average? Okay. So any dip, in my opinion, on NVIDIA, you already know. Okay, so some levels on NVIDIA would be first 132 to 133. Okay, if NVIDIA gets below 130, then there you go. You break down and you'll probably start seeing some serious selling pressure. Okay, now if we reclaim and we get back above this 145 level, then we can press back into the 150 plus. Okay, so keep your eye on 140. Okay, 140, we did close above 140, so that was key. So 140, you can see here, last time we went to 140 and got weak off of it, it came all the way back down to 118. So I'm looking at this right here as a possibility. If we reclaim, then we can go up. All right. So very key of how to trade or how to look out for NVIDIA. If you're a true investor, like I said, you want it to boom, but also you're like, man, I would not mind this coming back down so I can grab some more. Okay. And ride it back up to highs. Okay. So we're holding trend. We need to hold this trend or reclaim the trend. If it starts to roll over here, trend has slightly changed. Okay. If you are a savvy structural technical person, one thing I could potentially see here is this some type of potential head and shoulders that's forming if NVIDIA kind of plays out like this and it pops back up and forms a lower high, right? And it wants to cool off. So that's something I'm also paying attention to. If we jump back into there, does that form some type of head and shoulders to roll back over if the market gets weak? All right. But we're just reacting, right? I'm not predicting or saying anything's going to happen. We're just reacting, right? I'm just giving you levels. So there's NVIDIA. So that's first indication that NVIDIA has been technically holding up the semiconductor sector, because if we start going, and I'll round this out here, if we start going to AMD, right, look at AMD's relative weakness to the market, even with this bullishness in the market over the past, month, even the election, right, is still on this downtrend right here, pushing into this 100 moving average on a weekly. Okay, so AMD is coming again into a solid support level. We just need confirmation. So AMD ticks down a little bit lower into that 130 level, is sitting right there. I think that personally could be an indication of, a bounce opportunity, if we get some good news with NVIDIA, but obviously AMD is on its own accord, but it's still forming these kind of lower highs. Maybe it can find a base around here. If it pulls back and fills that gap, finds a double bottom or a base like this. All right, one more tick down potentially, and then we start squeezing. That's a possibility for sure. So a lot of upside potential in a lot of these semiconductor names. You can see here Qualcomm kind of sitting in a support. It's been weak, consolidating, big selling pressure there off of that 180 level. But right in this 160 level, 160, 160, 160, 160, I personally believe Qualcomm needs to kind of reclaim 170 to get back above these moving averages on a weekly time frame to really confirm. But it is sitting somewhat in a support range. Okay. If I go to SMCI, here's that pop, about 38% after hours. Man, oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? I told my community, I was like, I knew they were going to absolutely just, just fake everybody out. Now, this is not something like that. Oh, wow. Okay. It's at $30 right now. So it's sitting up here. I knew this thing was going to rip out of nowhere. Just get everybody to sell. Big money was going to step back in, get everything back in line, rip back up to 50. Now, if this goes back up, this needs to be on people's radar yet again. It's still not out of the water, but it could be an opportunity. So you see there, SMCI pulling down to $17 and it's back to 30 already. Doubled their money already. Now, that was speculative. If you're in, great. All right. Let's see other semiconductors, Qualcomm, MU here. We've got sitting at a support again. Okay, sitting at a support again. Previous highs at around $95, and it's pretty much break and retest right here. It does have a gap to fill down below, so maybe it can get a little bit more confirmation down back into 90. But if it starts building a base off this 95 and starts reclaiming 100, that could start getting some strength to go back up. Okay, ARM. Okay. Not a big fan of this chart, but it is forming a nice trend line here. Higher lows sitting back at this, again, support range, right? If we look at that 50 moving average, it's a little ugly there, but it is sitting on that 50 moving average below the dailies, but it is sitting right there. So another support zone. So if I draw this here, okay. So in summary, okay, I know I'm jumping to a lot of these semiconductors and charting them really fast and things of that nature, but my whole premise of saying this is that the semiconductor sector has been a lot of selling pressure, but when there's a lot of pullback, everything's on discount. So we have to see that, is this a discount that we're going to get a big pop and AMD is going to go back to 200 plus, right? If you believe in it, is this the dip on NVIDIA at 137 to 140 and it goes to 160? Right? Is this the dip on ARM? It's at 125 and goes back to 160, right? Things of that nature. So you want to pay close attention to when things are silent, when no one's talking about it, it's kind of pulling back. You stop trading it a little bit, right? And you stop paying attention. So semiconductor sector, that's why I wanted to make a video on it. Let me do an honorable mention with Palantir. Palantir finally getting some selling pressure today. Finally, okay? Finally. I've been looking to short Palantir for a while, and today was the day, all right? And we may get another opportunity if it can pop one more time back up into the high to mid 60s. Maybe we can get a double top or a lower high confirmation, but a lot of selling pressure. I don't know if they had any news that I saw today. Palantir CEO was selling stock. Okay, cool. So yeah, he's taking profits too. I don't blame him. All right, so the first signal of selling pressure, the first wick we get on a weekly, a red candle weekly, about time. Okay, so look out for Palantir. Finally get some selling pressure action. If it can pop up one more time, great. But ultimately, this is a sign here that is finally getting some selling pressure to rebuy back in, or investors that are holding may want to hedge and protect your profits with either some puts or holding and rebuying lower, okay, or setting a stop loss, okay. All right, I think that's it. It's been long enough. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Let me know down below if this helped you. What's your favorite semiconductor stock? Are you invested in the semiconductor sector? Right? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? You think it's going to go crazy, rip, or do you think it's going to pull back even more? I'd love to hear you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please don't forget that. A lot of you aren't subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button from me. It really helps. And join Leverage University down below. Until the next time, peace, love, and blessings.